Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm the therapist, Tess Brigham.
And I'm Brooke Brigham. I'm the attorney.
So today we are talking about Still, the Michael J. Fox documentary on Apple TV. So if you don't know who Michael J. Fox is, if you are a very, very young person, he is an actor, and he's very much a big part of our childhood. Mm-hmm. Actor, best known for playing Alex P. Keaton on Family Ties, and for Back to the Future, and many other movies from the 80s, 90s, and Spin City. One of my favorite shows is Good Wife. If you watch that show, he had a recurring character on that show. He was brilliant. And he has had Parkinson's disease for, I think, close to 30 plus years now.
Yeah, he was diagnosed at 29 and he's now 62.
And this documentary is basically kind of almost catching us up on his life, where he is today. I think a lot of people, because he's not out in public too much anymore, I think people just don't see him as much. He obviously acts here and there, but not as much as he used to. And I think he makes some public appearances, but not anywhere near what he used to. And I think there were some scenes where it was just watching him walk was surprising.
He's struggling. I think he's physically struggling. It's more now. It's hard for him to just walk down the street without falling.
Yes. And so we were trying to figure out why this documentary, why now? But I think a lot of it was very much just to show people, this is me now. This is who I am.
Well, and also, let's be real. He probably doesn't have much longer that he would be able to do this.
Yes.
Because at a certain point, he's not going to be able to talk very well, if at all. And also, too, probably to highlight, I didn't realize this. I kind of forgot about this. And he has raised over $2 billion for Parkinson's research, and it has a foundation. And he worked with Muhammad Ali when he was still alive, who also had Parkinson's. And so I think maybe part of it is to bring awareness. Mm-hmm. Part of it is to just for him to tell his story while he still can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the documentary, it's very interesting because Michael J. Fox has, obviously he's written a book. And so part of it is the audiobook of Michael J. Fox's story of his life. So we're getting some of that narration. We're also getting tons of clips of all the movies that Michael J. Fox has been in over the years. We're also getting clips of him today and interviews with him and seeing him with his family. And then we're also getting scenes of his life today. And then we're getting, what a lot of documentaries do, which is scenes acted out of, Michael J. Fox lookalikes from the back of the head.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't understand because, throughout the film, they use scenes of what looks like Michael J. Fox in order to tell stories from his past.
Yes.
And at first I thought, like you said, I thought it was an actor who looked just like him. But then the more I started looking at it, I'm like, no, that's him. I think what they did, and it's very well done from a filmmaking perspective. I think what they did was they actually did take clips of him from movies or television shows and then pieced them together to tell a story, and maybe some of them they were an actor.
Yeah, I think it was a hodgepodge. Yes. Yeah. I think sometimes when they had the right clip and it worked, I think they used him. And then I think sometimes when they didn't have the right clip, I think they would use the back of a head and someone who looked like him.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. And then, and then they could, because he obviously had narrated his own audiobook, they use clips from that so that he could narrate it. And then because you could tell when he was narrating things present day because his voice is obviously changed.
Yeah. Well, and also I enjoyed learning about his childhood.
Because those things I really didn't know about.
And he says in one of the opening scenes, he says he was never still as a kid. And that's the through line of the entire documentary.
Yeah.
But yeah, he grew up in Canada, and he was a real short little kid.
Yes.
Always looked like 3-4 years younger than everybody else, but he discovered drama because that's where the girls were, he said. And he was so little.
I guess he had a sister who was 3 years younger, and that by the time he was 6 and she was 3, they were the same size. They thought they were twins.
Yeah.
And they show a bunch of pictures of him growing up, and it really was. There was one guy on the hockey team that had like a mustache, like 16 with hair and a mustache, and then right next to him is Michael J. Fox, and he looks so
like a little boy.
But because of his size, because of his size, that actually worked to his advantage and helped him tremendously, because when he was 16, an acting teacher said, hey, they're looking for someone for this Canadian television show who could play 12.
Yeah.
And this, to look young, especially in TV and movies, is great because they always want people who are over the age of 18 to play teenagers so that they can work them to death and not worry about
child labor laws.
Yeah, no child labor laws. And so apparently and I didn't know this either. I didn't know he had started. I knew he was from Canada, but I didn't know he started doing TV in Canada. So he did this show, and we see some clips of this show. And he said it seemed like he got it right away. Like it was real easy. And it sounds like he got the show, and then he drops out of high school, and his dad, who he described as kind of a rough guy who, really didn't understand any of this drama stuff that he wanted to do, put this on his credit card and believed in him enough to drive him down.
Amazing. Yeah.
Drove him
down to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And got him set up in an apartment and and then went back to Canada. But yeah, I mean, I think most fathers would have said, are you crazy? Like, no, I'm not.
You're going to drop out of high school?
You're going to drop out of high school? I'm not paying for you to move to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Even I would have said, at least finish high school first. Got to get a high school diploma at the very least.
Yeah. And he just moved there. He didn't have anything set up, but he
It sounds like he had maybe an
some
agent.
meetings, yeah,
and he had auditions, and he was getting roles. Like he got
some offers.
Yeah, I looked at his IMDb. Like he got a Trapper John MD because I recognized that. He got a Family, which was the name of an hour-long show back in 1980, and he got some parts, but it was rough. He was, he lived in what he called this horrible, like little tiny apartment in Beverly Hills. He said, I wasn't running out of money. I was out of money. I had no money. I wasn't even eating. I was running from the landlord. Just down to the last, nothingness. Just, I didn't think I was out.
Yeah. He was ready to probably pack up and go home. And then
he said, I was living beat by beat, you know?
And then, his last shot was auditioning for this new show, Family Ties. And, if you didn't grow up in the 80s, Family Ties was like the show.
Yes.
It was, like as big as like Friends or in the 90s. It was extremely popular show, went on for a long time.
It was part of the Thursday night lineup. So it was Cosby Show, Family Ties for a long, long time. So it was Cosby Show, Family Ties, Cheers, and Night Court. That was sort of the 80s lineup. And it was the show, and he was the star. He was the star. And that was the big thing was that Meredith Baxter Birney was the well-known person. And I think this show was designed to be her show.
Yeah, she was the mom.
And it was centered for her. And he became the breakout star. He and Justine Bateman, they became the breakout stars, but especially him. And it was huge.
And apparently I guess the casting people wanted him, but the producer, Gary David Goldberg, didn't want him.
Yeah,
Brandon Tartikoff, the president of NBC, didn't want him. And they somehow convinced them to let him do a test episode. Yeah. And he just won them over. He was brilliant. I think I understand this right. He said that he ad-libbed that thing where he called himself Alec P. Keaton. Alex P. Keaton answers the phone. And he was like, his character was kind of obnoxious, but he was so lovable, and you couldn't help but like him because he plays this guy Alex P. Keaton who's in high school, and he's like a conservative guy, and he's into conservative politics, and his family's a bunch of liberals, and he's always they're always in conflict about that, and he's very full of himself, but you can't not like him. Yeah. Because he's self-deprecating. He's funny,
Well, and the show too, it hit upon something that was happening, right? Because this was 1982. Reagan had gotten elected a couple years before. And there was this swing from the 60s and 70s. And these were these aging hippie baby boomer parents, and they now produced these more, the idea was these more conservative kids, even though Alex was really the most conservative. And then they produced this Nixon loving, Ronald Reagan loving Republican child. And he was the big star, and it was, it was all part of that. It was crazy.
Yeah. America fell in love with him.
They fell in love. And then, so Christmas, I guess it's originally, so I guess Gary David Goldberg calls him into his office and says, well, originally I wasn't even going to tell you about this, but, it's Christmas break, and Steven Spielberg, wanted you to do this movie, but we didn't think you would be able to do it because of scheduling. But now, originally, Eric Stoltz was going to be in it, but he's not right. And
I thought it was Crispin Glover.
No, Crispin Glover is in the movie.
Oh.
But Eric Stoltz was originally going to play Marty McFly.
Oh, that's the guy from Mask.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's not right. and they're coming back to you, and we can make this work. They want you to play the lead in this movie called Back to the Future, which at the time, you know, was kind of like this, no one knew much about it. So he talks about how they, you know, he would do all day long, you know, he would do Family Ties, get up, do Family Ties. When Family Ties wrapped, he would drive out to some location in the middle of nowhere and do Back to the Future. And then he would sleep
for like 3 hours.
3 hours, and then get up the next day and do Family Ties all day. And he did that over and over again for 3 months and had really no idea how any of this was going to be.
Yeah.
And little did he know that Back to the Future became this huge, you know, phenomenon.
He became a movie star.
Yes.
He was a movie star.
Cause Back to the Future came out, and it was this huge, I mean, it was critically acclaimed. People loved it. It was made tons of money. And it was like, in 1985, Michael J. Fox he was on TV. He was winning Emmys. He was everywhere. He was a huge movie star. He had made that Teen Wolf movie before Back to the Future, but then Teen Wolf comes out, and that's huge. Like, this guy he could touch anything. It was huge. He was just ginormous. It was unreal.
And then at what point, I don't know the timing in here. So eventually on Family Ties, his wife, who became his wife, Tracey Pollan, came on the show. She had a part I guess at this point, Alex is in college.
Yes.
And he meets her. But of course, I guess he's still living at home.
Yes, he is always living at home.
He's always living at home. But because you see him with her in her dorm room, and she hates him at first. But, you know, then they fall in love, and then they fall in love in real life. So was that before or after Back to the Future?
After.
After, okay.
Because I think they get married in 1988, 89. I didn't write down the year that they get married. But so Back to the Future is in 1985. And he's huge. He's this big celebrity. And then I think she's on the show in 86, 87. And then she's only on the show for about a year or so. And then they date. They start dating then. And then they get married, I think, a year later after that. So.
And she gets pregnant right away. And then he says that she, you know, basically he turned her into she was basically like a single mother, and he was out, you know, being a movie star because he was traveling all over, making all these movies like all over the world. Yeah, I mean, he did. Family Ties ran for a while, but I mean, it ran for 7-8 years. I mean, it definitely ran its course, and it ended because it ended when Alex P. Keaton graduates from college. So we go through like 3 years of high school. I think it's 7 years and 4 years of college with him. And then after that, and also this was also what happened was that after he had all the success with Back to the Future, he's on top of the world, and he does what a lot of actors do, which is he tries to kind of be serious. He tried to do Bright Lights, Big City, which is, you know, where he has this cocaine problem. I think Tracey Pollan's in that. I think she's in that movie with him. You know, he does this rock and roll movie. He did with that thing with Sean Penn. Yeah, he did the Sean Penn war movie. He does a bunch of movies that don't do very well for a long time, and while on the show. But yeah, he spends a long time doing movies after movie after movie, and then he kind of goes back to his old ways of doing movies, like for love or money, and he kind of like flails for a long time. But yeah, she's endured a lot. You know, she really has. Yeah, she's been very supportive, to say the least. He was even before the diagnosis. Parkinson's. Yes. Yeah. So it must have been. So he was diagnosed at 29. So I can't remember at what point in this movie making he like what he was doing professionally. Well, professionally, the story has always been that he started to notice the tremors when he was on the movie Doc Hollywood. Okay. Because he started to notice, that's when he started noticing the tremors. And that was in 1980. Okay. 1980? Sorry, 1990. 1990. Okay. Yes.
So, and throughout this, as we're learning about his life and we're going through it, this was the part that was, really, I thought just interesting. And I think maybe why he also wanted to show us what was going on is, we see him, he's got a physical trainer, looks like that he's working with. So he's got this physical trainer who helps him, who walks with him, who's basically helps him walk. And we see him walking, which is, he is very honest about it. He's like, people are shocked to see me walk because it's almost like watching a toddler walk.
Yeah. And you're like, what you're waiting for them to fall.
And
because
he does.
you know they're going to fall.
Yeah. And he does. And he falls at one point in the middle. One woman says, "Hi, Mr. Fox." And he falls. Like it distracts him enough, like a toddler. Yeah. Falls. And, he's like, "Oh, you knocked me off my feet,"
Yeah. And then like he fell into the headboard of his bed and broke like all these bones in his face and his cheek, and they had to put pins. He's always falling, breaking things. Yes. It's a real problem.
Well, and what's the other part of it is you think, okay, when he first they said, "What happened to you?" Because they're putting makeup on it, and you think, oh, he fell and he bruised his face, but it's not that simple. It's like, oh, I fell, I bruised my face, and I had to have surgery. I had pins. I mean, it's never just I fell down and I have a boo-boo like a toddler. It's always surgery. There's surgery. There's pins. I mean, how many surgeries? And I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on. And I had no idea this is what he's enduring.
Yeah, he's really not looking good right now. But yeah. And then after the diagnosis, obviously has a lot of fear. He's trying to disassociate. And so he starts drinking heavily. And I think maybe even doing some coke. I can't remember. But, he was doing all that. He was doing all these bad movies.
Yeah, he wanted to fake his way through it.
Yeah. And Tracey says at one point, she's just like, is this what you want? Is this what you want with your life? And so he stopped drinking. And so the first baby came like right after they got married. Then in 1996, they had twins. And then I think shortly after that, that's when he did Spin City.
Yeah. Cause I think that it sounds like he said he was traveling so much. And I think the oldest son was kind of like, "Where are you, Dad?" Yeah. And then they had twins. And I'm sure Tracey was like, "You got to be kidding me." Because obviously they could afford nannies and all of that. But I think she was like, and also Tracey, really gave up her career.
She did. Yeah.
To be a present mother. Yeah. She gave up her career. So that's when he said, "Okay, I'll do Spin City and I'll be home."
Yeah. And then he talked about, I thought this was interesting, all the things that he did to disguise the tremors. And so he said he masked it by always putting something in the tremoring hand. And so like he'd have a pen in the hand. So it just looked like he was shaking the pen. Like he'd have the phone or a paper or just anything.
Yeah. It was very clever.
Yeah, it was clever.
Cup or
they show clips of all this, but at the time, you never would have.
It just seems like an acting choice.
Yeah, and he also said that his body ached from trying to mask the tremors because he was trying to like control like his muscles and try to kind of, keep it all together. Yeah. And then that causes every other muscle to tense up and build up. And I think, at a certain point, he was just always in excruciating pain. Yeah. Like all the time.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that he does say because the filmmaker asks him, like, "Are you in pain?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm in excruciating pain all the time."
All the time, yeah.
And he said, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" And he said, "Well, you didn't ask." And I think that's the other part too, which is, and why he doesn't talk about it all the time, or why he's not doing, why he isn't telling us these stories all the time is, it's like, and just as he doesn't want the person on the street who maybe made him fall to feel bad is, he doesn't want to be seen as a victim. He doesn't want to be, pitied or looked at. And why he kept it in so long and didn't tell anybody what was going on was that he doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to be looked at that way.
Yeah, because, he didn't announce it to the public until 7 years after his diagnosis. And then, of course, they show, he's on the cover of People magazine. And it says Michael J. Fox fighting for his life. And, he's doing this Barbara Walters interview. And you know how Barbara Walters can just be triggering. And, it was uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
That's not what he wanted to be known for. And he didn't want to be talking about it all the time. It's hard enough just to have to go through it as a person, live life. And all of a sudden, because he's so famous and everyone loves him, they think that, they have the right to know all this information. And
yes, but I think he also felt like, I can't keep hiding this. I think it was harder. It was like, okay, let me do that. And then we also learn around in the documentary that he's fallen down again. And this one was like, oh, well, I broke my hand, and then they had to put pins in it, and then the pins got infected. So at first they thought, let's take the finger off, and then I broke my arm. And you just hear these stories. It's like every time.
Well, I wonder if part of the Parkinson's like weakens your bones, and
that's what I'm thinking, because it seems like every time he falls,
it's a disaster.
It's almost like an 80-year-old falling.
Right.
It's everything is so weak all the time.
Yeah, I know. That's why, this documentary was really sad.
But I don't think he would say that about himself, right? No, but it's sad because everybody loves him and cares about him so much. And he didn't do this to make people feel sorry for him. I think he just did it to just kind of tell his story while he still can, and like I said, bring awareness to Parkinson's and maybe help his foundation. I thought his relationship with his kids is super sweet. Yeah. They're making fun of his texts and how corny they were. Yeah. And, he's like, well, I wanted to say so much more, but like Tracey is texting for him, and he wants to say all this stuff, and she's like, maybe just say looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Just editing it. Well, he obviously has a really great relationship with his wife. He obviously has put her through the ringer and really loves her and appreciates her. And you don't see marriages like this, and you don't see marriages like this, period. And you don't see marriages like this in Hollywood. And you've never heard a bad thing about either of them ever, and you've never heard anything about them. And it's really, really nice to see. I think a lot of the family stuff together is, I think, the best part of it. And it's nice to see his kids, and it's just nice to see them all grown up, and how much the girls look like her and the boy looks like him, and those glasses that the boy was wearing, and that part about it, was really, really nice. And for someone who I think, and we can get into this because this is what he says at the end. There's parts of it that seemed very much at peace in some parts. Yeah. So.
Yeah. What did he say at the end? He has like,
I wrote down what he said at the end because I want to talk about this, because this is what I felt like this to me felt like the whole purpose of it. Yeah. Because I wrote down the last couple lines. So this is what he says at the very end, because at the very end, he talks about, when he goes public with the disease, he has this fear of being rejected, but it really, it forced him and also allowed him to be an actor and act and have Parkinson's, play roles where he could be out and having Parkinson's or other diseases. And he testifies in front of Congress and the Fox Foundation. And he talks about how the thing that I learned was that I couldn't be still in my life. I couldn't be present in my life until I found this thing that happened to me that made me present in every moment of my life, because it was shaking me awake. And that's the thing, is that, the two major things that clients come to me about are anxiety and depression. And depression is about the past. The woulda, coulda, shoulda of, I should have done this, I should have done that, I wish I had told this person, I should have pursued this career or that career, or I shouldn't have done this. Or anxiety, which is the, I fear this, I fear that, or I want this, I want that, or what if this happens or that. And you know, what's so hard about that, and what the key is, everyone wants to know what's the secret. The key is learning how to be in the present, because it's the only thing you have complete control over. And what is true happiness, what is true contentment, is being in the present. And I think he just really beautifully said, and that's what he's talking about, which is that it is about learning how to be, you know, what does that mean to be still? And how do you be still in the present and enjoy? And as our mother used to say, be here now. But how do you, you know, how do you do that? And this sort of interesting idea of having this disease, having this thing that doesn't allow you.
It forces you to live in the present.
Like you can never, ever be still. And it's just interesting how he talked about having all of the success in the world, like everything, because he really was. You've got to understand, if you were alive in 1985, he was on the cover of every single magazine. He was everywhere. There was nobody bigger than this person. And then just 5 years later to be given this diagnosis of, you have this degenerative disease and it's slowly gonna do this thing to you. Like, you know, I think we ask these large questions of like, why does this happen to people? Why is one person given so much, you know, everything, the world, and then we're slowly gonna take it from you in this way. We're gonna give you this beautiful woman and this family, but we're slowly gonna like take it from you. And I just thought it was very interesting. And I think that in the end, when really tough things happen to you, it's all about how you decide to deal with them. That's it. That's all you got, is how you choose to handle it. And that's what we saw, is how we chose to handle it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And yeah, there's no playbook on how to handle it. You just have to figure it out. And, you know, obviously he's very lucky to have a supportive family.
And resources. I mean, that's the other part.
Money.
It's very nice to have a full-time PTE person and the money and resources to healthcare and all of that, for sure. Yeah. I think that's one thing.
No, absolutely.
I didn't realize he raised as much money as he did, $2 billion. It's amazing.
Yeah.
What he's done.
Yeah. Because, Parkinson's, you know, I hear more and more, you know, people being diagnosed with Parkinson. I mean, it's a horrible disease.
Yeah. Well, that and MS, I mean, all of these degenerative diseases, and
I feel like,
and we're not getting any closer to finding any way to deal with any of this.
No, not well. Maybe there is. I don't know. I remember hearing about there. I think with Parkinson's and stuff, I think there is some. I don't know if not experimental. I don't know. Experimental is the right word, but again, it's like, you know, most people don't have that kind of access to that kind of health care to be doing, you know, experimental treatments or whatever. But anyway, we love Michael J. Fox and wish him the best.
Yeah.
But it's a good documentary.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's
well made.
It is very well made. It is very inspiring, and I highly recommend it. And it's nice. It's nice to see nice people. Yeah. Being, you know, inspiring, doing nice things. Yeah. For a change.
We like nice people.
Yes. Especially when it reminds me of my childhood and, you know, simpler times, the 80s. Were those simpler times? No.
I don't know. Yes and no.
I don't know. What was that? Chernobyl?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The Reagan years, they were rough.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't simpler times. I think it was simpler because I didn't have any responsibilities.
You were a kid.
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't have any responsibilities or anything.
Yeah. No bills to pay.
Yeah. All that good stuff. All right. Well, Thank you so much for tuning in. So don't forget, we are here every Tuesday and Thursday. So Thursday, we're doing documentaries, but next week, we are going to be starting our Just Like That coverage.
So excited.
So excited. So on Tuesdays, we do a Sister Wives Rewind. We are finishing up. Next week, we'll be finishing up season 3. We are going to be introducing Solomon Brown to the world.
Yeah, jump into that.
Yeah. And, you can always go back and download the old episodes if you are a big Sister Wives fan. And then we're going to be doing a recap, just talking about our thoughts on And Just Like That season 1. And then we will be talking about And Just Like That season 2 the week after that. So
and it'll be ongoing.
Yes, ongoing.
We're going to do an episode every week for every for each.
We are. Okay.
I think so. I mean, I think there's enough. If there's enough content, I think we could talk about it for a good 40
minutes.
Or,
okay, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see if it's enough that we can fill up. But if not, we could do like a couple episodes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Week. Yeah,
but we're excited to talk about that.
Yeah, and
I have a lot to say.
Something fun, light and funny.
Light, fun, fashions.
Please, yeah, for the summer.
And then, so if you like this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe. Tell a friend. Share this podcast with a friend. Tell 2 friends. And if you enjoy it, please give us a 5-star review and say a few kind words. And follow us on social media. We are at Psych Legal Pop on Instagram and TikTok. And I think that's it. That's all our plugs.
That's it.
Yep. We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Howdy, howdy, ho, and welcome to Fantasy Fan Fellas. I'm Hayden, producer of the Fantasy Fangirls podcast and your resident lover of all things Sanderson.
And I'm Steven, your bookish internet goofball, but you can call me the Smash Daddy.
And we are currently deep diving Brandon Sanderson's fantasy epic, Mistborn. But here's the catch. Steven here has not read Mistborn before.
That's right, hey. So each week, you'll get my unfiltered, raw reactions to every single chapter.
And along the way, we'll do character deep dives, magic explainers, and Steven will even try to guess what's next. Spoiler alert, he'll be wrong.
Newsflash, I'm never wrong. Episodes come out every Wednesday, and you can find Fantasy Fan Fellas wherever you get your podcasts.
Give me a mountain with lots to do. Give me the sunshine, give me a dew. Give me something simple and true. All I need is sunshine and a cool, refreshing mountain dew. So give me my good friends, give me a dew.
Grab some friends and an ice-cold Mountain Dew today.
Mountain Dew.